Everybody, welcome back. Now, let me tell you something. This guy could have grown up being a professional sports star. Spent his time growing up between Canada and Wales. And by the size of him, yes, that's right, he could have been, and he was there, a professional basketball player and rugby player. Instead, he decided to plow his energies into entrepreneurship. And ladies and gents, he's now based out of Cape Town, South Africa, with one of the craziest, coolest sports blogs slash, I want to say podcast, I want to say vlog, I want to say everything. It's called The Money Man, and if you aren't subscribing to The Money Man, what the hell are you doing? This man lives and breathes sport. And by the way, in his spare time, he also happens to be the CEO of a highly successful media company. Kevin, The Money Man Ferguson. Hiya, Kev.
Hey, good to see you, man. I was wondering who you were talking about in the intro.
I mean, you got to talk to me about life growing up spending time between Canada and Wales. There already, we're talking about other sides of the world, and of course, in a sport mad household. I mean, you could have been a professional sports star.
Well, I was the only mad person about sports in the whole house.
No way.
My brother was a professional basketball player, but he didn't like watching sports, whereas I loved it.
I want to find out about this love for sport, not only the love for sport, but the love for life. There's nobody that exudes life like this gentleman over here. We're going to hop into this. Now, this car speaks volumes about, it's so understated. Do not take for granted what lies beneath this. From a distance, it looks like a nice corporate vessel that'll carry executives in utter style and luxury. Underneath, there's a raging mad V8 that's ready to rip your face off.
Are you sure you want me to drive it?
Of course I want you to drive it, because this car I've chosen, because this is exactly what reminds me of Kev the Money Man Ferguson. From the outside, a sleek, svelte beast of a machine. Inside, don't take it for granted, it'll rip your head off. Let's go. Kev, finally you and I are in a car having this conversation, which is long overdue.
What a beautiful car.
Take us back to the beginning. We'll talk about the car as well, because we want to find out, you're a petrol head that not many people, I don't think, realize that you love your motor cars. But take us back to the very beginning. Where did you grow up? I mentioned you spend your time split between Wales and Canada, love for both of those countries.
Well, I grew up in Wales, in Newport, which other people refer to as the asshole of nowhere. But I left there when I was 10.
Okay.
As a lot of people moved to Canada or Australia looking for a better life. My parents are both Irish. But yeah, I spent 10 years there, and then in 76, I remember it well because it was the Olympic Games, I think, in Montreal.
Right.
So we moved to Canada, up to Timmins. I think Timmins' greatest export's probably Shania Twain.
Right, yeah.
And just loved the outdoor life, the fishing, the swimming. I remember when we got there, we were the only kids in the lake swimming up north. And
but you were mad, but you were from Wales. I mean, it was warm for you.
It was warm. It was like lukewarm. I think because and just growing up there, I fell in love with Canada.
Yeah.
Then started to watch all the North American sports, the ice hockey, the baseball. Toronto got their franchise in 77, I believe.
Right.
So I became a big baseball fan. And I used to sit in the car listening to the games because they didn't have the games on TV. One on Saturday maybe. But I'd listen to all 162 games of a team, I think, that lost over 110 games in their first season.
So rugby, obviously when you were in Wales, we know that rugby is monstrous. I mean, the support for rugby, that's it. I mean, in actual fact, in Wales, there's nothing else but rugby. The football's there.
It's grown, the football's grown. But I mean, when I was there, when I was playing mini rugby in Wales, you had the Gareth Edwards, JP Williams, Davies. I mean, geez, grew up with some.
It must have been Joneses. Lots of Joneses,
lots of Williams.
So there's that foundation of rugby, and this is why when we'll come back to that conversation around rugby. Yeah. But then to Canada and following what the Northern Americans love and their variety of football. And then at that stage, I mean, rugby wasn't big, it was growing. Canada was probably the first nation to really appreciate rugby.
It was a very trendy sport.
Absolutely.
Amongst young people. Canada and what people don't remember is I think that in 91 Canada beat Wales at the Arms Park. They'd beaten the French in Ottawa. And they had a good team.
Yeah.
I mean, they lost in the quarterfinals to New Zealand by, I think, 10 points. And ironically, this weekend we lost to Spain by 20.
I saw that, yeah.
I mean, jeez, but the government's never put money into rugby.
Yeah.
And it was very much an amateur sport until after 96, 97.
Got you.
You know, so I stopped playing when I was 94.
But 94, and that's, I mean, you were playing, there was top South Africans playing in Canadian rugby, in Canadian League Rugby.
Yeah.
It was the place where South Africans would go. I think of Christian Stewart, I think of so many South Africans. It was a tough league.
It was, and I mean, I know Christian, and he played with a good mate of mine, Al Sharon, who I rated as one of the best 8 men in the world.
Yeah.
I think he actually went to 3 World Cups.
Jeez.
Hell of a guy. And yeah, there was a lot of South Africans that were in playing club rugby in Canada. And rugby was strong then.
Yes.
You know?
How did you end up in South Africa?
The truth, I was dating a beautiful young woman at the time, but we just didn't get along. And rather than have that critical conversation,
sure. Yeah.
I asked for a transfer to South Africa. You know?
Send me over.
Send me over. So I came here in '96 in April, and then I was headhunted by a company called Highbury, which it still is today.
Yeah.
And their office was in Joburg. So I went down to Joburg and saw the motley crew that was running the company.
Yeah.
And I advised the Highbury group to just close it down.
Sure.
You know. And then they asked me if I would stay, and I jokingly said, "Yeah, move it to Cape Town."
Yeah.
And the CEO at the time was sponsoring someone on the Sunshine Tour, and loved Cape Town, unbeknownst to me. And he said, "Yeah, sure, we'll move it to Cape Town." So that's how it happened. I moved the office to Cape Town, and so, you know, you need a lot of luck in your life.
Absolutely.
And
timing is everything as well.
Yeah, and I certainly had a lot of that.
Let's talk a little bit about, because it didn't stop. I mean, your love, and you mentioned growing up in a house where you were the only sport mad individual.
Yeah.
That sport madness, it runs thick in the veins. Where were you always, was just something that appealed to you? And I'm not just talking about a specific sport. You are sport crazy. There's no sport that's being played in the world anyway that I don't have your finger on the pulse.
Well, I think that comes from growing up in 2 countries. One that's mad about rugby.
Yeah.
And I also chose, you know, Leeds United were quite big.
Oh yes.
In the 70s.
Gordon Strachan.
He was more 80s.
80s, yeah.
Yeah, but Peter Lorimer.
Oh geez.
Frank and Eddie Gray.
Wow.
You had David Harvey and Net, McQueen. You just had a
great team. Yeah.
A great team, and they were one of the best teams in Europe at the time.
Yeah.
So I started following them, and then when I went to Canada, there was a hockey team called the Maple Leafs.
Oh.
And the Maple Leafs, Leeds. It wasn't, and they weren't a good team, you know.
But back then.
No, they were. The last time they won the Stanley Cup was '67, was the year I was born. But I wasn't a fan until '77.
Got you.
And my godfather gave me as a Catholic, he gave me we have these names,
right?
Confirmation name, whatever.
Yes.
It was Jude. So St. Jude is the patron saint of lost causes.
Yes.
Or hopeless causes.
Yes.
So every sports team I ever followed was bad. You know, the Toronto Blue Jays lost 100 games their inaugural season. The Maple Leafs were run by a guy named Harold Ballard, who was an absolute maniac.
Yeah.
You know? He would recruit all these Russian guys and Czechoslovakians, communists from communist countries.
Right.
And so I just fell in love with this story, and I've been a long-suffering Maple Leaf fan
forever.
For 42 years, 45 years. You know, it's been a long time.
Now, I love this, and tell me how much of this is true, because what I heard was at any given time, people would come to you to pick your brain on sport for the weekend in terms of picks, results, etc. And you were helping out so many people at a given time, and your calls and your predictions, as they are to this day, were so good and spot on that you picked up the nickname the Money Man, because you were making people a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah, I just, you know, I studied, when a season would start, I'd sit down with their schedule and go through every game and work out the probabilities of what result was going to happen. And I did that just for fun. I was that addicted to sports. And my dad placed a bet on a horse called Red Rum.
Okay.
A famous horse that won the Grand National a couple times. And put my first bet on when I was 4 or 5.
Jeez.
So and he's Irish, so he loved to gamble. God rest his soul. So I was always sort of predestined to be a bit of a punter. So for me, the helping other people was a way for me to avoid being an excessive punter.
Got you.
You know, and it's something that brings me a lot of. It's my passion.
And you can sense that if anyone's ever watched the Money Man's videos or seen your stuff, you really are. I mean, it comes easily to you to be able to help others and talks from the heart. You know, a lot of punters, people don't realize that a lot of them have agendas, their own agendas, and they try and push those. What I love about the way you do things is it's a genuine kind of a gut instinctive, researched, thought through process that you go through before you dispel or dispense of that information.
Well, look, I'll bet against my favorite team. I mean,
exactly.
All the betting is a probable outcome. Is the science of probable outcomes.
Yeah.
You know, and at 55, I've watched so many games in every sport. And my favorite day is Sunday when the NFL is on. You know, I love American football. I love basketball. You know, big Celtics fan.
Yes.
Big Kansas City Chiefs fan. And in '83, they had a guy, a running back, a rookie. He was an amazing running back, and he drowned, saving a couple of kids. And so then, you know, from that, the Chiefs were then my favorite football team.
Yeah.
You know, Larry Bird, who's probably my sports icon of all time.
Wow.
Larry Legend, you know. People talk about the games now, the LeBrons and this, but it was Larry Bird and Magic Johnson that made the NBA what it is today. You know, they paved the way for the success of the Michael Jordans and LeBron James. And God, he was, to me, he's probably the greatest player to ever play the game.
Absolutely.
He couldn't run, he couldn't jump.
Yeah.
You know, he had everything against him.
Yeah.
And still, league MVP, playoff MVP, won a few titles. And turned down a $10 million contract to stay on a month. Yeah. Because he couldn't play anymore. He turned it down. So I don't know how many guys that turned down $10 million.
Exactly.
And quite a humble guy. So yeah, I love all sports.
Yeah.
You know?
Isn't it
I've
amazing?
even bet on women's curling.
That's
and
great.
I won.
Great. Have you noticed, and I've noticed that a lot of your audience have in South Africa, especially, we had a lot of international visitors and international people that support that log on and are subscribed to your channel. But a lot of South Africans have now, over the past 5-10 years, have managed to pick up the fact that we're getting a lot more international sport. So we've become a lot more turned on and switched on to things happening out of the States.
Well, look, ESPN's a great channel to have on DSTV.
Yeah.
And they show at least 4 games of football every week.
Yeah.
And so there's a growing NFL. I wouldn't say an overwhelming growing,
but it's
certainly a burgeoning fan base for NFL football.
Absolutely.
It's like one of those things. Like rugby, trying to sell that to other countries.
Yes.
You know, football is a complicated game with many coaches and many players. I think they have 45 players on the roster on the sidelines that play. You know, their offense, defense, punt return, special teams. You know, and I played football in high school.
Yes.
It was a lot of fun.
Now, we're talking about things that you're obviously passionate about and things that have made you who you are.
Yeah.
We haven't spoken yet about being a successful CEO and running a ship that is one of the most incredible ships to sail. And to be the captain of that requires a lot of actually sports mentality that goes into running a good, successful sports team. I guess goes into running a successful media company.
Yeah, I think the stats when I was growing up, Ryan, was that most CEOs had played varsity sports.
Got you.
You know, so there's some definite leadership qualities that you can carry over from playing team sports.
Yes.
You know, so I've benefited. I played collegiate basketball and collegiate rugby, so you know, they gave me some insight into working with teams.
Absolutely.
And how to get the best out of people at times.
An injury, is that what stopped you in coming back to your sports days? Why did you decide to?
It just wasn't, you know.
You know, you could have been, you could have, you know, been an international star.
Could have, should
I know, but you know, but was it injury?
No, well, a couple of things. One, it was my sheer laziness to train. When I see the guys that play today, the commitment to training is second.
No, it's crazy.
And you know, I like the women a bit too much. I like the burgers. I like the beer a little bit. You know, so I like a lot of things that weren't conducive to me being a star.
I love that. I love that honesty.
So that's the one. And the other was that, you know, from a rugby point of view.
Yeah.
You know, I played with Al Sharon and a lot of the guys in Canada. But you had to play if you wanted to play. Big
international
national rugby.
Yeah.
In Canada, you had to play for your area. So for the Toronto area.
Yeah.
And then you had to play province.
It was involved.
And then you were playing 3 games. You were playing 3 games a week and practicing 4 days a week.
Yeah.
And you weren't getting much money for it, if anything. So you were really playing for the love of the game.
Yeah.
You know, and in Canada there was a lot of traveling. So I lived 110 k's from Toronto. So when I played with the TRU team, I had to go and practice twice. We practiced Monday and Wednesdays, and then you practice with your club Tuesday and Thursdays.
Jeez.
So you literally, and with the amount of drinking that
took,
you know, it was tough to commit to that for a long time, you know. And when you traveled, you travel on a bus to Syracuse or these places.
Yeah, and that's hours. That's a heavy drive. Yeah. You are now, I mean, we're sitting now with one of the most important test matches coming up. The Springboks are there and Wales, one apiece, coming into the final one. A lot of people are asking you already. I know we'll have to wait till Friday to get the final picks, but it's been an interesting series. And to have the series culminate here in Cape Town.
Oh, yeah. And you know, I've got the tattoo.
You got the tattoo?
And the
Absolutely.
Tattoo. So it's great for me. I mean, look. My heart is the Dragons over my heart.
Yes,
you know? The Springbok, I lost a bet, and the last World Cup. So it's great to see Wales competing.
Yes.
My only complaint is that, you know, I don't like our coach Bivak. I don't rate him.
Okay.
And it sort of makes them hang on. You know, I'd like to see a different coach. I'd like to see Scott Robertson there.
Oh wow!
Wouldn't that be great to see anybody coached by him other than the Crusaders?
They're the toughest international team to play against. Everyone says this. The All Blacks say that. The Springboks say they're just tough opposition to play against. You never quite know. You never quite get a grip of what their game plan is.
Well, they weren't always, because I can tell you from a reference. When I got married in 1998, Wales played South Africa in Pretoria and lost 96-13.
Yeah,
that team wasn't difficult to beat.
No,
you know? But look, to me, the Boks are growing up in Wales and being a big rugby fan for years.
Yeah,
the Boks were the team.
The team. Yeah.
You know, it's like there was so much mystery around them because of isolation.
Yes.
And they were always considered tough Dutchmen.
Are you going to be brave enough to call a score?
Yeah, I think that South Africa on Saturday will win by 15.
Okay, so win by 15.
Yeah.
But subscribe to the Money Man's channel to make sure you get all the picks for the weekend, because it's not only rugby. Kev, let's talk a little bit about Cape Town as well. You're now, I mean, you love this place. There's no other place on earth, and you travel a bit. You've got to see the world. For our friends at Cape Town, etc., and Getaway Mag that love to find out why we've got successful people that call Cape Town home. Why and what do you love about Cape Town?
You know, that when I was sent to I worked for a listed group. Highbury was a listed group,
right?
And I was sent to Atlanta in 2001 to recruit an MD for the American office. And I remember the CEO flying over after I'd been there for 2 weeks, and they were hoping that I would acclimatize to Atlanta.
Yeah.
You know, and the CEO looked across at me and said, "We were thinking that maybe you'd like to stay here," and they offered double the money. More shares, just everything.
Yeah.
More than any. I was 34 at the time.
Jeez.
I was like, wow. And I just, you know, the problem is that I'd only be working to get back to Cape Town.
Sure.
So they haven't printed enough money for me to leave Cape Town. And the reason is simple. You've got beautiful mountains. You've got the sea.
Absolutely.
You've got wine. You've got the Gulf. You've got the most beautiful women in the world. I mean, what is there not to like about Cape Town?
So
literally, people often ask me why I'm not back in Canada.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not for me. Cape Town is the best city in the world. Yeah.
Premiership side you support?
Leeds United.
Woo-hoo!
I know we got by the skin of our teeth this year.
Just.
Yeah.
Listen, Kev, as always, to grab some time. I know your time is precious, and you know you're a busy man. I think
Always
that
make time for you, man.
everybody that's watching this, a little bit more insight as to what makes you you, and what makes you so so enduring to watch, so knowledgeable at the vast sports that you cover on your show, The Money Man. And it's to see what goes in, the kind of work that goes in behind the scenes, and the kind of passion that you have. It really is an inspiration, and no surprise that you command one of the biggest media groups in the world. So thanks for the time today. I love spending time with you. I love picking your brain. And like I said, subscribe. This is Kev, the Money Man. And if you're not following the Money Man's channel, what are you doing? If you love sport as much as anybody does in South Africa, this is the man that you want to get your picks from on a Friday afternoon.
Thanks,
I can tell you.
Thanks,
Thank you. Kev.
Thanks a lot.
World class.